So good morning, everyone. Here we are for another presentation of our seminar. And today we have some guests from many countries in the world. Well, I'm Carlos Silva Filho, CEO of Abrelpe in Brazil. And I'm going to show you and talk about the project we have and the methodology we developed and the steps we've taken that can be spread to other cities and other management in other municipalities about our project, Waste-Free Water. This project is really, really important, and I hope we can get our efforts all together to start it over. And to start this seminar, to start our agenda, I would like to bring the first panel, which is about the presentation process of the methodology developed by the project Waste-Free Water, which is what we are talking about today. So from Santos to the world, I would like to invite Fernanda Romero, technical coordinator of Abrelpe, and she's going to talk a little bit about her story and our story. Now, have a very good morning, everyone. Hope you all can interact, and let's get to know better about the project. Fernanda, the word is yours. Thank you, Carlos. Well, good morning, everyone. Well, after some troubleshooting issues, let's start it. And thank you very much for everyone who's following us online. And now we would like to tell you a little bit about the story of our waste-free water program. We're going to talk about the first city that has hosted us and how we started to take our methodology and the knowledge we have on this project, and we want to spread it to all over the world. So just to make context, many of you have access to it already, but just to show the relevance of this global challenge, we know today we have about 500,000 tons to 900,000 tons of waste are not collected all over the world. So we estimate we have about 25 million waste end up in the oceans every year. Now, where do all this material come from? Well, most of them come from the continent. So 80% of solid waste found in marine environment comes from the continent. So fragilities, of course, we have the weaknesses of the system, and these materials reach the ocean, unfortunately. So just as we understand how this is important, Abrelpe has assumed a compromise along with our partners to add to the project, which is another project we had before that was fighting the sources of marine pollution, of marine litter. And we had some partners on that before, on that pre-project. Our project comprised Abrelpe, ISWA, and an environmental company from the state of São Paulo, CETESB, the City Hall of Santos, who acknowledges our project. We had a very good opening with them. They had this commitment in their environmental issues, and they were with us for supporting us in this project. And of course, the Environment Ministry. Well, we are adjusting some items. So what are the purpose and the goals of the program? As we understand, we have to go to the root of the problem. And we have a different perspective of the problems. We have to, of course, we had to go backwards and find out what the root causes are. Because that's the only way we could sort it out. We could resolve the problems. So we tried to find these sources that were causing the water pollution. As we found these hotspots, we could provide actions. We could implement a governance responsibility, governance proposal, and try to find out which way we could go through. After all, we could find what are the steps we should take, and we could implement some projects and some actions along with the population, local population. All these studies, all this analysis were provided several reports. We have several reports available, and our quotes, but we would like you to research more about that. You can access our website. Our reports are all available, and we are bringing some elements that add to this discussion we're having today. So starting with the national panorama, we have an X-ray of all the actions we have taken throughout the country, which was around 2018. So our purpose was to identify what was going on in the world, and in that moment, we could identify that most of the initiatives of these projects were focusing in studying and analyzing the impact of these materials in the environment. So many of these cleaning groups, they had the purpose of finding the best, finding the sources of these litter. The next step would identify all these actors and factors. So then we had to analyze locally. As part of the project advisory, we had several actions to be taken, several focus, several goals, but our main goal was to look for the weaknesses and understand what comprised the solid waste. What comprised the solid waste. So this is what we did. This is how we dedicated ourselves to this step, and this time we started to build the knowledge on this project, which is now being extended to other cities and other municipalities. But we have to consider the infrastructure that we have. Santos has a whole menu of services offered to citizens, such as the conventional collection of high volume waste. They have different formats to serve different realities. So this is all available for the citizens. Even though we can find waste in the environment. And this led to this question: where does this litter come from? From this question, we have developed another report, which has this name: where does marine litter come from? And you can have the access to the main sources of these materials. We had to access them. We had to find, where do they come from? The drainage, from the beach? Where do they come from? So at this time, we focused on the sensible sources of waste, and we identified the 3 areas where we suppose these materials came from. These areas were from the stilt houses, the drainage systems, and the beach itself, due to the consumptions, due to the tourists. It could be also a source. And then, as we identify the source of these materials, our next steps was to study the composition of this material. So what goes to the ocean? What ends up on the ocean? What kind of material end up in the ocean? And at this time, the project was focused on going to the field because working at a distance, we wouldn't have the enough clues we needed to find the proper ways to follow. We collected materials in large size, small size. Some materials were present in the environment for longer and they presented characteristics that are pretty important for us. So these fragments indicate the whole trajectory of these materials because sometimes they go through a long way until they reach the ocean. So they may come from very long distant regions. So this was all very important for us to track the ways we could go through. Then we studied the composition of these materials. What was there? Was it only plastic? Was it cigarette butts? What was it? So we analyzed on the beaches and on mangroves. On mangroves, we could see there was a high level of plastic with a different dynamic as we see on the beach. And on the beach, we had lots of cigarette butts. Therefore, however, the paper waste was much higher. So this is a brief summary of all the reports we have made throughout this time, throughout this project. We had a diagnosis step and then a more focused step. So we have these 3 reports with action plans that have been developed along with the municipality to understand what had been planned before and how our project could add to those actions. So we had short and medium-term actions. And then, as we understood the importance of communication, we started to build the guidance of communication. Abrelpe understand the importance of having a clear and appropriate communication on this waste project, and we could use that on our actions. Unfortunately, there's no purpose into implementing actions if we don't find results throughout the time. If we don't have positive characteristics along the time. So we have all this information provided on our website, Waste Free Water, which is at the bottom of your screen. So you can visit and see this information in more detail. And finally, in this step, we summarized all this trajectory of our project in a bilingual project, which is available too. You can see the hotspots and the possible paths that we are taking. So in this book, you can see some of the stories of our project. And now we are at the time to expand our actions. This is when the project changes its name, because we know that it's not about waste-free water anymore. We had to develop on the other cities, which were also relevant and had other being discussed and actions should have been taken. And then we had this project, another part of this project, Waste Free Water. Then we had the integration of other municipalities along with the government, and the idea was to qualify them in order so that they could make the same thing as we did in Santos. We could bring all the necessary knowledge for them to develop diagnosis and understand where this marine leader came from and try to implement the actions. I'm trying to use this pointer. Then we go to step 2, which is more practical, more handwork. So from the results we had in other previous steps, we had some pilot projects. We could advance with prevention actions, and then we could implement some eco-barriers. We could implement some booms that could help us into checking the advance in the project. We could check the drainage channels because they receive rainwater, especially in moments of heavy rain. This can help guide the proper waste, the proper material, and this is a very relevant action that has been taken. And then we had the action Clean Sand. It is another project which was much before, like some weeks before the pandemic started. The idea of this pilot project was to offer tourists another experience on the beach. Because from the guidance, from the communication guidance that we have, and active communication, active listening, we could identify a really potential on this project. So we offered two commercial points on the beach. We offered them a table, a cup with the logo of the project, disposable straws, a waste bag, a proper trolley for collecting waste, a proper garbage disposal, and it worked. It really worked very well, but unfortunately we couldn't follow that because of the pandemics. But we did collections before the pandemics to understand the impact of this project, and we could realize there was a reduction of 45% of contamination on the sand. All these new materials could collaborate to these positive results. And the last pilot project, which was very successful, and we are on step of multiplying it, we again had a step of active listening, of engaging local actors, because the project will not go any forward if we don't impose local participants. So we identified one of the sources of pollution, and there's a whole dynamics of irregular. We had longer distances for these materials to reach the waste spots. So what we do to involve the youth in this project, and also with the being provided by the local citizens, because they could only hang a bag of the litter they provided, a litter they have made, and then we would have a collection that would take it to appropriate point. So when we talk about conservation aspect, it has to be considered. And a unique condition, and that's how we can understand the of people on the beach and several other. So, and we could implement them. We had some sample collections, and what has changed a lot. Cigarette butts was very present before, was very present on the beach, was the highest percentage. We can relate it to the fact that residues and waste are coming from other places. And finally, understand the importance of governance, which has been discussed throughout the project. We're going to have a moment to talk about this further, but we have developed a proposal for Santos, and we thought about different points of action, different points of axis, like communication, monitoring. So everything that we have developed before, we expanded so that this action would become local, regional. Well, and then going to 2020, we had another step of the project. We added a new project and we changed the focus. We started to expand to other cities, to other municipalities were being assisted, but then we started on Ilha Grande Bay and in Manaus. So two very critical places. Manaus, due to the presence of the streams they have there. So this project is turned to the analysis of these two regions. We did diagnosis, we identified all the possible ways that should be followed. So then we got along with other partners like Abrelpe, along with ISWA, the protection agency in Sweden, and Swedish Association and the University of Leeds are expanded in this project, and most of them, and we are all working this project in Manaus. And again, that's why we changed the title of the seminar, that is from Sound to the World. So we are working now on 3 projects, which PROMAR is a partner of us in this project, and they work in 3 countries, in Costa Rica, Colombia, and Dominican Republic. And with their knowledge, we could identify what could be expanded on waste-free water project and to the other projects we are carrying out. And in this step, in this project in Manaus and Ilha Grande Bay, these are the results of the reports we have developed. And this is the guidance for Manaus, which is a possibility of routes to be followed, both regarding technology, communication, and governance, which is now present in all the proposals we had, thinking about Ilha Grande Bay. And here, I didn't want to bring you a spoiler, but it didn't work because the report is right underneath. But the idea is to show you what we have reached throughout this implementation project. And we are going to talk more about this further with Carlos later on. And where have we gone so far? Here are the municipalities that are part of the waste-free water project. So Bertioga, Balneário, Ipojuca, which are present with us, São Luís, Fortaleza, Rio de Janeiro, Ilha Grande Bay, and Manaus. So these municipalities have received a seal, a certification on this project, and now they are expanding on it. And just to close, I would like to invite you all to access our Instagram page, Waste Free Water Official, which is Lixo Fora D'Água Oficial, because we have some actions focused on waste-free water. We have developing this monitoring program, this monitoring project since 2019. We have been working on this training model, which works very well, and it enables participants to exchange their knowledge. It's a very rich exchange program, and we have solutions sometimes that are developed in a simple location and can be developed in another location. So focusing on fighting waste water in marine litter, we invite you to analyze and check our webpage, because there we can have more information and maybe solve the doubts you may have. And that's it. This is our email, our link to Instagram, the website where you can find our reports, and Abrelpe website. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Muito obrigado, Fernanda.
Thank you very much, Fernanda.
Alegria a gente ver essa história.
It's very nice, it's very good to see, to listen about this story, to see what we have made so far, where we have come to, because we can literally dive into this theme and how much it was possible to develop. Of course, we had the help of all the partners that you have commented on, and I thank them very much. All these partners who are our friends, they have become friends throughout this journey. And we are very happy to see this project in an increasing, in an expansion phase, which is a result of the dedication of the technical team of Abrelpe. And I'm very happy that the technical department has dedicated, has prepared themselves, and they are bringing and showing their deliveries, their results, which are going to be represented by one publication only, but we have several reports. Now, I'd like to go to our second part. Our second part of our presentation, and now I'd like to give the floor to Professor Costas Valles, our dear friend and coordinator of the Task Force of Marine Litter at ISWA. And his report has been the impulse that we needed to bring this topic to Brazil. So that's exactly from the translation and publication of the report on this task of ISWA in Portuguese, that this theme, this topic, has become very relevant, and we were invited to develop this topic. So thank you very much, Professor Costa Valles, and I'm sure this is going to be another great opportunity for learning.
Very nice to have you with us here today.
Costa, thank you very much. It's very nice to have you here today.
Likewise, dear Carlos, muito obrigado and bom dia a todos. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm really honored by the invitation to share some thoughts with you. And of course, this is in a long list of collaboration opportunities we had with Brazil and with Abrelpe, and I think that has been extremely fruitful and important for us. So I hope that you're able to follow. I'll try to share my screen. I'm not sure how easy it's going to be, that one. Let me see. And then I'll move to sort of a presentation mode. Yeah, okay, sorry. Sorry for that. It's just... I'm not sure you can see my screen. Is that correct?
Yes, we can see.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And sorry for I had to move the slides a bit in a strange manner. So I think what we had from Fernanda right now heard is extremely important. All this international collaboration, but most importantly, doing a local case studies and incorporating all the local expertise and methodological developments on a local case. However, such efforts are done in all places around the world. And I would like now to give you a bit of the bigger picture, if you like, and see how these different efforts are linked and put them, if you like, in perspective. So just starting with my motivation, and I think you all familiarize with stunning environments that you have in Brazil. And that's an environment where I come from, is a protected area. But then you see the outcomes of that back in Greece, in a very developed European Union place. We're still having our own challenges. So don't feel bad if you have challenges there in Brazil. We all have our challenges here and there, and we have to work in a concerted manner to make things happen. So at the University of Leeds, with my team, we have been working from a laboratory based to whole local and global systems approaches to quantify plastics pollution and work at the interface between waste and resources management, circular economy, and plastics pollution. And what I'll focus my presentation on is talking about 4 different models we have developed, which span different scales and level of detail on quantifying, on measuring plastics pollution. The first one is one of the 2 models that we have applied on this important project that you have just heard about, and is actually a double pleasure because this has been developed on behalf of the International Solid Waste Association. And as you know, dear friend Carlos is presiding the association as we speak. So this plastic pollution calculator is currently applied across the world, and had the pleasure to apply it also in Manaus, in Ilha Grande, here in Brazil. And it offers us a way to understand how all the different aspects that might be affecting marine litter and plastics pollution, especially from activities on land, come together, from the waste activities to the generation, to the composition, to the release in the environment, and to the transportation. In that sense, it offers us unprecedented opportunities to intervene in a cost-effective and efficient manner. The toolkit differentiates between the different situations, because if you have an informal settlement, that you might have some situations in the outskirts of Manaus, to downtown city centers or touristic area like the pristine environment like Ilha Grande Bay, you need many very, very different situations on the ground, and you need to account for these situations. That said, we need also to start talking about items. Items, they have different value as recyclables. They might be littered or dropped in the environment in many different rates and transmitted in different rates and so on. What we have found also is that in applying this methodology, we're struggling. We're struggling with data, with the capabilities of the local authorities to collect the data, of the other stakeholders' willingness to apply the data, and so on. That's all over the world. It's not just in Brazil. And that's why it's really important to have more concerted efforts to measure the waste generation of municipal, but also including the commercial type of waste, to quantify issues around open burning. You might have in some places in the world, some rural areas also in Brazil, but also understand all the different aspects of the informal sector, the positive ones, and also the challenging ones that relate to the plastics pollution. By applying a toolkit as such, we're getting a wealth of information, and I'm gonna just give you some examples, really. They're not from Brazil ones that I'm saving for being communicated by Abrelpe and the project, but these can tell you where the emissions are coming, which type of activities, and what is the composition. It tells you how the water, how the plastics find the way to the water. Is dropped directly there, or is it in fact dropped elsewhere on land and goes through the storm drains and so on. It helps you understand where you should be intervening in the most effective way, but also when. If you don't have a flood weather, you might have some flash flooding events and things like that, so it can tell you when you should be focusing your interventions. And we can communicate the high-level results to our decision makers in an effective way, giving them the big picture, because they really need to know, and in a clear, concise way. Eventually, you can take those and really translate them into action, translate them into baseline reports that tells us then where we could start intervening. And of course, we produced some excellent results here for Ile, Grande Bay, and Manaus, but also similar reports are produced elsewhere in the world. And if you want to see work that has been done with this toolkit elsewhere, for example, we have many Asian case studies, like in the city of Da Nang here in Vietnam, and so on, already released online. Okay, we've seen one of the important local toolkit, and another one that we have developed with the GIZ is the waste flow diagram. The importance of this waste flow diagram is that it interlinks with another methodology to collect and report data on a local level, linked to the Sustainable Development Goal 11.6.1. This target tells us how well cities are managing their waste, especially the proportion, using the indicator of the proportion of the waste that is managed in controlled facilities. With plugging in the waste flow diagram at the end of the Waste-Wise Cities toolkit, that we also helped co-develop for the United Nations Habitat, you can get a very rapid assessment of the plastics pollution, but this is a different tool to the plastic pollution calculator. It takes a different approach, and you can run it with less resources. All right, these are different toolkits at the local level, but then we need to link that to a bit more national and global perspective. And that's where tools like Spot come into place, which combine different databases, and we run it across in the world using some advanced artificial intelligence capabilities. And this toolkit we have applied in many parts in the world, like for instance in India, and of course we have applied now in across Brazil, and it will be a continued effort as a commitment for us to working with the institutions in Brazil and key stakeholders, and not least Abrelpe, to update these results so that Brazil, even where we don't have data, we can really, project. I have some estimates, some reliable estimates about the association between management of solid waste and plastics pollution. As you can see from the preliminary runs here in Brazil, there are some challenges in managing the waste, especially in the more rural areas. Excuse me, I'm a bit breathless. So I will momentarily mute myself. All right. So what we will be doing also, this toolkit has been applied in the most recent important publication by OECD, the Global Plastics Outlook, just released a couple of weeks ago, to tell us how is the world plastic emitted in the environment, how much is going and where it's going. But if you want to link that to solutions also to national level, we have to think about circular economy and waste management as a whole. And such relatively simple but coupled models like the Plastics to Ocean, which was developed under the Pew Charitable Trust and systemic collaboration in the UK and internationally, and published in Science, gave us really the baseline actually to understand how the world is linking waste management to plastics pollution, both in a prevention way, and it shows us that the most single important action we can do to stop plastic pollution is to have the waste collected in the first place. So this is shown in the most unambiguous way. But it also shows us that we have to work in collaboration across the different sectors, from innovation to final collection and even removing the plastics from the environment to make this happen. And we have a big challenge if this is to happen. And I think this applies globally, but also applies, as we have seen, by the application of the model to Brazil. Eventually, and I'm concluding with that, there are many, many more methodologies out there. all these are trying to tell us something about how managing plastics, how managing our resources, waste as resources, how are we dealing with the waste in the water, on land, what's the challenges with open burning at different levels. We will need really to coordinate and work jointly together to take all this knowledge into practice. And I think the excellent opportunities we had so far in that direction in Brazil are showing us the way, and we have to capitalize on that and disseminate and bring into other fora as well. My concluding remark is, again, on the importance of bringing those locally developed methodologies and the locally collected data in a bigger dialogue, and I'm committed to make this happen. We have to learn from this on the ground local applications, because if we don't do that, we're going to be able to obtain reliable and useful results to arrive to solutions. So thank you very much for letting me share some thoughts about the wider methodologies that are available in our hands, and those two that we have applied in Brazil, and the importance on continuing doing so in strict in a collaborative mode, and also communicate more widely those results beyond Brazil. Thank you so much. Muito obrigado. And I would like to hand over back to the organizers. Thank you.
Muito obrigado, professor Costas. Realmente.
Thank you very much, Professor Costas. And it's very interesting to see that we have scientific knowledge and we have the necessary tools for monitoring. This is something that we have always made in this project and in all the projects by Abrelpe and ISWA. We can really advance with scientific knowledge, with scientific basis, with knowledge bases, knowledge data, because if we don't do like that, it's just a blind project, it's aleatory, and we won't be able to identify the results and the journey, the path to be followed. So I'd like to continue on this topic, and I'd like to congratulate Professor Costas Valles and the team of Leeds University, and I'd like to hand the floor to Lorena, who's also part of the technical team of Abrelpe, and she's going to show us more details about the methodology developed by the program Waste-Free Water. Please, Lorena, thank you very much. Well, everyone, now that we have seen the whole trajectory of the project, and I'm going to talk about the methodology, which is how we make this project possible. Not only here in our country, but all over the world. I would like to thank Costas. I would like to thank for presenting the different methodologies. The flash calculator, for instance, and I would like to say that our purpose is not to qualify you about our methodology. We have tutorials explaining that. We have our reports with all the results and all the steps. Our goal here today is to show the lessons we've learned on this process. And the guidance has this purpose. And has this purpose of showing you the results we had. Let's see if it works now. So just talking about the experience on this project, how was our start in 2002 in Santos? Well, we went after international programs to understand what has been done already with the methodologies they had and what we needed to develop and improve what we have here. we didn't want to create new solutions. So we looked for inspirations like Marlene Project and Inspire. And what we have made so far has been a construction of knowledge along with the city halls, because this project is made along with the municipality representatives. And they help us during all the process. They talk about the needs, the financial limitations, technical limitations. So we had a gradual construction of this knowledge. And we could develop an assertive methodology that is totally focused on the root of the problem. And it's accessible because our methodology is very simple. We understand the limitations because sometimes their representatives don't have a deep knowledge of the difficulties. They have some technical limitations. And it's also accessible because of the costs. We don't need several materials. We don't need several travelings. And it's really accessible in every way. And of course, this can be replicated all over the world. What are the steps? Basically, we have 3 steps on our methodology. The first one is to establish a dialogue with the City Hall. We have to go locally. We have to go to the office of the City Hall. And this is how we get we gain their confidence. Imagine if you were a foreigner, you go to the City Hall and you tell about the solutions of their problem. It's not like that. This is not the way it works. So we have to go, have a conversation, and develop a joint work. So this is the first step, face-to-face meetings. Establish a dialogue with the City Hall. Second, we have to carry out a diagnosis of the local situation. Because in this stage, primary and secondary surveys of waste management data are carried out, such as collection, destination, and final disposal. We have to understand where these wastes come from. We have to find and think about the hypothesis on this step. We have to understand the amount of waste collected when there is the cleaning of the beaches. So this is another step. And finally, we have to go to the field, of course. We have to make the sampling collections, whether in the mangroves. And I can tell you that our methodology is very versatile, it's very flexible. We can use it on mangroves, on the sand, on the beach, and also on areas of sandbanks. So we have to go to the field and investigate the situation and find out what the problem is. Because sometimes it's not visible. Sometimes problems are not visible. We know in many fields that there is collection, there is cleaning in many fields, in many areas. But we had what Fernanda has said in his presentation, we have a big problem with cigarette butts. And it is very often left behind during collections. So we have to go to the field and find out what the problem is. In order to do so, we have to investigate. And how can we investigate? Our methodology is based on sampling collection. What are sampling collections? Sampling collections are made with the purpose of investigation. And the investigation is different from the task force. Task force focuses on communication, environmental education. It comprises a lot of people, a large group of people. It does not comprise a transect, a limited area. So there is this big difference from a sampling collection and a task force. And I can tell you, task forces are really important. In Manaus, for instance, it's one of the very efficient actions because we have several restricted areas that we can only access and visit on the boats, for instance. So it's really needed to have task forces, but it doesn't have the purpose of investigation. So our methodology is applied on a limited area, the limited area. And basically, we have 6 steps of our methodology. The first one is to choose the sample areas. So this is the first step. We carry it out along the representatives to understand what are the critical issues. In this image, you can see an aerial picture of Ilha Grande Bay, and we chose this area because we have access to Ilha Grande, we have access to the pier, and we have to understand these different realities. This is the first step. And then we have to reach that area, identify fixed structures, because we need to understand the methodology needs to be applied, needs to be constantly applied in that place so that we have some data bank. And then we have to establish a transect, at least in that same area. So we have to find fixed structure. For example, historical buildings or football field beams, football goalposts, and so on. Our third step was to establish the transect. The transect needs to have at least 10 meters wide and extend should be defined between the beginning of the centrip and the maximum point of low tide. Oh, this is the point of low tide. You can see it here. And we can understand that there are some regular areas because sometimes not going to be rectangular. Some beaches are very small, so we have to be flexible. So we have to establish at least a 10 meters wide transect. So then we do the collection. At least like 5 or 6 people are doing the collection, and they are capable, they're qualified, and we can see all the visible waste. However, we do not collect organic material or high volume material, because sometimes we even find house furniture. In this case, we take pictures because they have to be collected with appropriate equipment. Our next step is to track. So we have to track materials properly because many lightweight materials can fly, for instance. So sometimes it's important to have a table for ergometric conditions. And we always have to count the items. Why is that? Because we observe in other methodologies. In other methodologies, they weight. It's an important data, but it doesn't reflect the reality. Because sometimes we have some wood on our samples. And if we transform it into a pizza graphic, the highest percentage is going to be related to the wood. But it may be also some cigarette butts. And cigarette butts are very light. They almost have no weight. So weighting can be possible, it is possible, but counting is mandatory. And also classification. So what is the advantage of our methodology? Our classification is very free. It's made in a very free way. We have to put them on a table and classify them properly so that we can change this information into an Excel file and transform it into data. Right. And now that we have gone through all these steps, we have all this data with us. And what happens now? We have to have free collections throughout the year. Why is that so? Because we have to have a result from every season of the year, in summer, spring, winter, and fall. And this was possible to be made before the pandemics. We have a graphic of the collection of these samples in Santos, and you can see here a graphic in the beginning of March when the pandemic had just started. And then the environment was clean. We had made the collection. And after March, we saw an increase because it has almost doubled. And then in the third month, in May, we saw that as we returned with the cleansing, it has become an important action in the city. Because without the daily cleansing, sometimes 2 to 3 times a day, beaches would be an inappropriate place to go to, an inappropriate place to inhabit. And then, in the 4th month, we could observe that the human element has a great influence locally. And the cleaning itself is really necessary. We have another graph of the items, and the cigarette butt performs exactly that way. In large quantity, it performs exactly that way. It has a high peak and then it reduces during the lockdown. So basically, we can see these different types of behaviors through this slide. So it's possible to observe that with our methodology, and it's possible to organize better our waste project. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone.
Muito obrigado, Lorena. E mais uma vez,
thank you very much, Lorena. And congratulations again to all the Abrelpe team for developing and sharing their experience. We can see that many of the things that you have been doing is only possible to find solutions when you monitor and when you follow the situation.
É o diferencial realmente que a gente entende desse projeto Lixo Fora D'Água, que é o monitoramento com critérios científicos.
Point. Monitoring based on scientific data enables appropriate solutions for the problem.
Só que não adianta ficar só no monitoramento, só na teoria.
We should not only monitor, we should not only keep ourselves based on theory. We have
então,
to
agora eu tenho o prazer
change this data into practice. And now I'm very pleased to bring here Mr. Jan Jansen, who is the general coordinator of the project PROMAR, which is this one Fernanda has mentioned before, which we are very pleased and we are very proud to be part of. And Jan is going to tell us about our partnership with PROMAR, how this transition of the theory studies to the action plans. So thank you very much, Jan, for being us. And thank you very much for embracing us, for hosting us at PROMAR. We are very pleased to have this project together. Now the word is yours.
Thank you very much, Carlos.
Thank you very much.
Can you hear me? Yes? Very good. So, hello and good morning from Dominican Republic. Bom dia desde a República Dominicana. O meu nome é Jan Jansen, diretor do projeto PROMAR. Excuse me that I will hold this presentation in English because in our project we do work in English and in Spanish. So my name is Jan Jansen. I'm the project director of PROMAR project, and we work in 3 countries, in Colombia, Costa Rica, and in the Dominican Republic. And we are financed by the German government, by the Ministry of Environment from Germany. And I will speak today about the importance of a proper diagnosis and establish an action plan. And of course, most importantly, how to move over to action. This means to practical measures to prevent or reduce at local level the flow of waste into the water bodies and into the sea. And this is a main field of PROMAR's work. To implement pilot areas, circular economy solutions. Okay, so circular economy solutions, because you need data to define the most effective action. And this is what I want to talk today. So, primero, muito obrigado a Dr. Costas Vélez e a Fernando, a Carlos Filho for the introduction. And there we have learned a lot about data sampling and also material flow oriented toolkits to analyze and to form the basis, to define the basis for what is to do. So this is extremely valuable information and experiences. And actually, working in PROMAR is we are based on the methodology that was developed within the Lixo Fora D'Água methodology, thanks to Abrelpe, thanks to ISWA, thanks to the Swedish cooperation. And this has been generating very interesting results for us. And I will show you the example from Costa Rica, from a small, no, not such a small town, from a medium-sized town, Limon, at the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica, and in the city of Cieneguita. So we can see where that we are there doing the data sampling on a defined area of 10 by 19 meters. And actually it was immense what we found there, a big, huge amount of waste and a big, huge number of different items. So, well, this is not an example, but usually you, let's say you go out of such a data sampling and you are quite shocked about how many items you find, you know. And the special thing, and this was mentioned, of our methodology, it allows us to trace back to the causes. So we count each. We know how many cigarette butts are there. We know how many water bottles are there. And of those where we can recognize the brands, we can identify them. That means individual producer and companies, which, and this is actually very valuable, if we then go into, let's say, into the discussions with the at local level or at national level and so on. Again, this is so important to define the best actions, the indicated important stakeholders, and of course with the waste general. And so this is actually the reason to be for PROMAR. This is why our project exists and is funded by the German government to, let's say, to help the countries and the local communities to identify and then to really execute the most efficient measures to reduce the flow of waste to the sea. Only some numbers, I don't want to repeat too much, but we are confronting a quite frightening scenario. So as you might know, you have read this, only 9% of the plastic, of the world's plastic is recycled at the moment. And then also a quite famous number that in only 28 years from now, plastics might outweigh fish in the oceans in a business as usual scenario when there are no additional measures are taken. But the whole idea of project like ours is that, yes, there are additional measures to be taken. And so we do not want to get to this point, you know. And then the next one is also, this is like, has been published in an ISWA report. And we will see another increase of the solid waste, municipal solid waste quantities until 2050, and another 70%. This is very close to doubling again the amounts of waste if we do not take effective actions. No? And on the other hand, if we look at the industry, then let's say the outlook is, again, in a business as usual scenario, that from 2015 to 2030, plastic production will double, and then again until 2050. And that means we can this business scenario. We need to do something. And we, let's say, we did some thinking within PROMAR. What are the things we can do? What are the opportunities for circular economy activities to reduce marine litter? And this actually starts from the more local actions, but also from the end of pipe measures where we cure, let's say, some symptoms. This is like cleaning the beach. This is like river interceptors and so on. But then moving on to strengthening the waste management system with better recycling, better separation, but also integrating and using the potential of the informal sector, strengthen the municipal solid waste management up to better financing and strengthen the institutions so that basically it functions better and we have more collection and so on. But then we go over to the more policy-oriented instruments. And of course, many countries are implementing single-use plastic policies. The extended producer responsibility has proved to be the most effective policy instrument to the recycling quotes far above 50%. It might be the only instrument that can do that for a wide range of waste flows. And specifically, if we are talking about packaging. So this is very important. But then again, there need to be more fundamental changes. In terms of the plastic industry, there is no alternative to, in the midterm, a fundamental design and innovation and just have other production processes, other products. And on the consumer side, a sustainable consumption. And this might simply mean, in the long run, less consumption of plastics. No? And of those areas, PROMAR will intervene and will support, not in all of them, but in some of these fields. So, and this is our aim. We want to reduce waste streams in the 3 countries that are named into the Caribbean Sea by implementation of circular economy solutions. And we are having different packages. The first is the monitoring. This is the data center that we heard about. And based on we are defining together with our partners in the countries the preventive action, circular economy solution at pilot sites. We are strengthening our political partners in the field of EPR, extended producer responsibility, but also in the regional policy dialogue and exchange of experiences. And finally, we are doing training, awareness raising, and also disseminate our results, tools, lessons learned, and instruments that we develop in PROMAR. And yes, as I said, this is the information on the project, as you heard already. So this project will be until end of 23. And the head office is here in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. And I'm just giving some flashlights of some of the project activities. We are developing measure toolbox that has, on the one side, more process-oriented instruments. So how to involve the stakeholders, how in a participatory way define the best actions, and then also very preventive tools. So I will not go into the details. Of course, time does not allow that. And the focus is also on how to get to the, let's say, to the action. This information is in process, will be available from PROMAR. We will disseminate this information, of course, at a given point in time. And we are doing awareness raising. Beach cleanups we see mostly as a mean for raise the awareness, you know. And we are doing this all the 3 countries. Here's some numbers. Many cleanups we are doing. Significant quantities of waste we are intercepting and plastics we are collecting. And really the numbers are impressive of volunteers who participate in these activities, you know. But then also we strengthen our partners, for instance, in the field of producer responsibilities. We are training the ministries, the environmental ministries in the 3 countries, which are our political counterparts. We have developed in Costa Rica a handbook on data sampling for local actors. So this is about to be officialized by the Costa Rican ministry. And this is the help for local actors, municipalities, NGOs who want to start action in their areas. We are trying to connect the financial sector with the waste sector because especially micro and small enterprises and also the informal waste sectors, they can grow a lot with financing, but currently they don't get any financing. On the other hand, the banks, yes, development banks and other institutions, they do have problems of credits and technical assistance. And so there's this information. We need to bring this information to the target group that there is support, and to the banking sector that there is a potential, a high business potential in the waste sector. And we have been present at the COP26. We have been present at the COP26 climate change. We are starting to support the Dominican Republic because the government has a new waste law, and this waste law asks for developing the instruments for EPR, for an EPR system for several waste types, among them also packaging and plastics. And we are supporting the Ministry of Environment with technical assistance, regional exchange, events on their way to a national plan for EPR during this year. Yes, and now I come to the point of this presentation. So from the diagnosis, from the waste data that we find on the beach, or we might find them at the riverbanks, or we might find them in other places by different instruments, by the waste flow diagram, by the data sampling methodology on the beach. How do we get from this to the action plans and to the implementation? So what we are doing in pilot areas is starting, of course, with the data that we find at the beach. So we are doing this at beaches that are affected from the waste that goes into the water bodies in those areas that we selected for our pilot implementation of preventive actions. So first thing, we need to find the right places where to do the data sampling. And then we will do them over the course of the project every 3 months to have a baseline, but also to see whether we have an impact with our action. But then, starting from that, how will we involve the local actors, the NGOs that might be already active, the municipalities that are responsible, the public enterprises that might collect the waste, or also the private enterprise, the schools and other actors, community leaders, and so on. So all the people which are important, that have an interest to improve waste management in their fields, in their areas, but also who have an impact and of which the support is needed in any action against marine litter. So these stakeholders needs to be met with their influence that they would have, with their interests, areas, with the barriers that they might present against, like say, any action that we would plan, or that the local actors leading a preventive process might have. Now, and then the next thing, and we are doing this actually in this week, for instance, in Santa Marta, in Colombia, is sitting together with them in several workshops. We might have several workshops with several groups, or one with all of them together, and listen to them. And it's not only in these workshops, we have many, let's say, meetings and visits of recycling centers, of informal waste pickers, of the administration and other institutions, with universities, local universities, a very powerful ally. And so we listen to them, and together with them, there are developed the best measures to be taken. And also other resources can be identified. And whoever leads such a process can also identify allies. Allies usually are NGOs, are local community leaders, are, as I said, universities, who in many ways. And together with them, the action plan is defined. And that means what can be done, when it should be done, who would be responsible, where do we get additional support, what are the risks, and very important, what can we do so that whatever is done there, led by the local leaders, local actions, it might be an NGO, it might be the municipality, it might be a community. What can we do to define these actions in a way that they will go on, they will prevail after the support, external support, for instance, by PROMAR or other projects, ends. So, and then, of course, after defining the actions, we go over to implementations. Actions are implemented. And I will give you some examples. Our partners, local partners, the ministries of environment, usually with our support, with PROMAR supports, are doing. So, example from Dominican Republic, installation of recycling centers. They serve for material receptions, but also as information hubs and for awareness raising. So we are doing this in Santo Domingo. Also in Santo Domingo, we have built actually 20 solar-powered electric vehicles for collection of recyclables. These vehicles can go into the small streets where other collection vehicles cannot go, and we will employ their informal workers or formerly informal workers to help us because they know where to find these materials. Other example, in Costa Rica, we intend to install in a small, let's say, tourist-oriented community in Tortuguero public water dispensers. This will reduce the plastic, and we hope to find less on the beach then when this measure comes into effect. Again, in the Dominican Republic, we will install a river boom. So that is a barrier that captures the plastic flowing down the river. And we are doing this in the river Haina in the Dominican Republic. We are training, and all of our pilots, we are training the local actors in marine litter prevention strategies, but also in awareness designing such action plans. Later on, we will also do train of trainers, and this will be associated with our marine litter toolbox that I mentioned before. So in Santa Marta, in Colombia, another example, there are many areas that you can see here in blue. They do not have waste collection. And why? Because they are informal and basically illegal settlements. So money that is generated there goes into this small river, and you cannot judge really the population on that because they do not have infrastructure. There are no containers. So together with local NGOs, with the administration, and while including informal waste pickers, we are trying to install their additional collection roads in these vulnerable areas in Santa Marta. And I could go on for a lot of time to name more examples, but time is here. And I would also like to present the institutions that are involved. So in PROMAR, so A stands for Adelphi. We are a think tank from Berlin, Germany, and we are coordinating and leading this project. And we have the support implementation partners in the Dominican Republic of Parley for the Oceans, the Office of Dominican Republic of Parley, of Segesti, a foundation in Costa Rica, and of a non-profit organization in Colombia and Medellin. And all these institutions have a long history and a lot of experience in fighting, in improving recycling systems in the field of extended producer responsibility and policy instruments in these 3 countries. And so we are forming a team with those, and they are actually, these 3 institutions are the links to our political and local partners in the projects. And we have also the extremely valuable support from Abrelpe, from Sao Paulo, Brazil. And we are learning a lot. Abrelpe is training us in many fields, among those the data sampling methodologies, but there's a lot of transfer. We are very grateful. So this is actually the implementing structure of the project PROMAR. And I hope we have an audience, not only from Recife, not only from Brazil, and not only from countries, but hopefully from other countries and places of Latin America, and maybe hopefully also from other corners of the world, because this is an international congress. And so we are waiting for your feedback. We are waiting for you contacting us. We are willing to share our information, our instruments. We want to replicate our experiences. We want to support you in applying the methodologies, such as the data sampling, such as how to get from the data to the implementation. We want to share information about our implementations, about our lessons learned, and we want to make available our marine litter toolbox for local action with you. So please get back to us, contact us wherever you are, when you plan, when you intend, when you are in the process of implementing local actions, again, marine litter. We are willing to help you make available information. You can our online trainings or whatever. We want to replicate our experiences. And so please write to us. Here are the contacts. We have a website. Please write to promaradelphi.de or to my person, or enter the website or contact any of the persons you see here. And with that, I would like to thank you for your attention. Muchas gracias. And we hope to hear from you.
Muito obrigado, Ian. Realmente.
Thank you very much, Ian.
Uma viagem.
Thank you very much, Ian.
Técnica e ao
I have to
mesmo
say,
tempo de imersão.
it's a technical journey,
no mar,
and at the same time, it's an immersion on this topic about sea litter. And we can see how much this PROMAR project is developing with your leadership, your collaboration, and our partners. And from us, from Abrelpe, we are very honored and we are very happy to contribute with these discussions, whose focus are these 3 countries, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic,
para outros países da nossa região, o quanto a gente pode
but we can see how much this has been spread to other countries of our regions, how much we can bring it to Brazil, how much we can share with our neighboring countries like Argentina, Chile, and it's very good that we can exchange. It's a two-way hand, right? It's a two-way road on this topic.
Tudo isso que a gente vem falando,
and an essential topic about everything that we have been saying so far, something that is paramount, is the engagement of the main players.
Vamos dizer assim, originam
if we don't
toda a
have the
parte do
engagement
resíduo
of
sólido,
those
aqueles que têm a responsabilidade com essa
know,
gestão
who are
e os que têm
responsible
ali o
for the
compromisso
solid waste
com
management
o
and who are
desenvolvimento de melhores
committed
materiais, esses
to the
projetos,
development
eles vão ficar,
of
como a gente fala,
this
enxugando
material,
gelo. Eles vão
these
ficar
projects
justamente
will
puxando
not be
toda
worthy.
a parte
They will be
apenas de
just
uma questão ali
about,
que não tem fim. Então, para falar
as
pouco
they will
sobre
just keep
o
on going
engajamento de
on and
atores,
have no
para
end.
falar pouco
So just to talk
justamente
about the
de
engagement
como
about these players
é necessário e importante, eu gostaria de convidar,
how
então, a
needed
Gabriela
it
Otero.
is.
Hoje ela vem com outro
I'd like to invite
chapéu, ela vem com
Gabriela
outro
Otero.
uniforme.
Today,
na verdade,
she's
um
wearing
pouco disso
another
tudo
uniform
que foi comentado hoje pela manhã,
because a little
foi
bit of everything that we have said in the
desenvolvido
morning
aí sob a coordenação da
has
Gabriela
been developed
quando ela estava
under
na Abrelpe.
Gabriela's coordination when
Recentemente,
she
ela
was
mudou
in
de
Abrelpe.
time, mas para
But she
time
has
que
recently
continua
changed
sendo
her
parceiro, para
team.
time que continua
However, she's
contribuindo
still a
e
partner of
levando
us.
pouco dessa
She's
história
part
além.
of
Então a
a
Gabriela
team
vem
who is also
representando o Blue
our
Keepers
partner
hoje
and
para
take
contar
our
pouco
history
sobre
beyond.
o engajamento de
So
atores
here,
nessa
Gabriela
agenda
is
de combate
representing
ao
Blue
lixo do
Keepers
mar.
today,
Gabriela,
and she's
obrigado por
talking
todo o apoio.
gonna talk
Aqui,
about the engagement
reconhecimento
of the
de
main
público,
players,
afinal, o primeiro
about
evento
the
que fazemos juntos
stakeholders agreement.
depois da sua saída da
So,
Abrelpe. Muito
Gabriela,
obrigado
thank you
pelo
very
apoio
much
ao
for
longo
keeping
desses
together
anos
with
na
us, keep
Abrelpe.
on playing
E
with us
parabéns
on
por
this
liderar essa
game.
equipe.
Thank
Ela
you
deixou
for
as
being
irmãs
our
gêmeas
partner.
dela
Congratulations
conosco,
for leading
né?
this team. She has brought,
Para aqueles que não
she
sabem,
left
então aqui
her sisters
with
us.
contando
If you don't know,
realmente que está tudo em família. Mas
we are
brincadeiras à
saying
parte,
here
e realmente
that we are
foi
all
uma
in a
uma
family
coordenação que deixou bons
because
frutos,
we are,
tanto
it's just a
técnicos
joke,
como
but
pessoais.
we had a
E é um
very good
orgulho tê-la
coordination with
conosco aí,
good
um prazer.
fruits,
Por favor,
good
agora, Blue
personal
Keepers
and professional
aqui no
fruits.
palco com a gente. Muito
So
obrigado.
please, Blue Keepers, the word is yours. Thank you very much.
Obrigada, Carlos. Não posso começar sem agradecer esse
Thank you,
reconhecimento, todo
Carlos.
esse tempo nessa trajetória juntos.
I can't avoid.
Muito tempo
I have to
não,
start by
pouco
thanking
tempo,
you
gente.
for all
E
the
é como se fosse um erro na
recognition.
Matrix, né?
It hasn't been a long
gente começou
time. It has
com
been
Lixo
a
Fora
short
D'Água,
time,
projeto
actually.
ISWA, PROMAR,
We
e
started
agora
with
aterrissando no Blue
waste-free
Keepers pra falar
waste-free
engajamento. Eu
project,
tenho,
the
assim,
IVA
privilégio
project, and
enorme
now
de
I'm here at
conhecer,
Blue Keepers to talk
a
about
anatomia
these
de
engagements.
todos esses projetos
And I'm very
apresentados.
honored
Poxa, eu
to
assino embaixo.
know about
Todos
the
eles foram
anatomy of
construídos
all
com
these
muita
projects that I'm
rigorosidade técnica,
really pleased
muita
about, and they
dedicação,
have
e
all
eles
been
diferem
developed
muito
with
do
lots
que a
of
gente hoje vê
dedication,
de
with
discussão sobre lixo
strict
no mar, porque já se
technical
fala do
collaboration,
problema
and they all
há, vamos
discuss
dizer assim, uma
about marine
década,
litter.
e ainda assim continua
Well, we've been
chegando
talking
tanto
about this topic
lixo no
for
mar.
like
O problema
a
do plástico é
decade,
tão
and we
latente e
still
outros
have
materiais.
much
Então, hora de
marine
ação.
litter.
Eu
So
acho
it's
que
time to
as
go to
falas até
action.
agora
It's time to
trouxeram
take
ação.
decisions,
Então,
take actions.
fico muito
Now words have brought us
orgulhosa
to
e
actions.
também uma
I'm
responsabilidade
very
da
proud,
continuidade.
and
A
it's
fala, quero estar à altura.
It's a pleasure
E
to be
também
here.
dizer
I'm
que é a
very
minha,
proud to be here, and I'd
inauguração
like
e
to
estreia
say that
apresentando publicamente o Blue Keepers,
it's my
que
debut
integra
here
o Pacto
to
Global da
represent
ONU,
Blue
a Rede
Keepers,
Brasil
which
do Pacto
is
Global
also
da ONU.
part
Pode passar,
of
Lori, por favor.
the United Nations Global
que
Pact.
né, esse gigante, esse agrupamento
So
de empresas
this is this
comprometidas,
giant
alinhadas
organization,
com as
this
premissas
engagement
da
of
Organização das
committed
Nações Unidas,
companies that
que
are all
respeitam,
aligned with the
representam
premises
e
of the
implementam
United
os
Nations.
objetivos do
They
desenvolvimento
all
sustentável,
represent, respect, and implement
trazendo
the Sustainable
projetos,
Development
trazendo cultura
Goals.
corporativa,
They bring
assimilando
projects,
e
they bring
colocando
corporate
isso como
cultures,
exemplo. Então,
they
começar
assimilate
em
it
casa
all
pra
and
daí dar o exemplo
make it an
pra
example.
sociedade.
So we
Então,
start at
tenho
our
muito orgulho,
homes and we
de ter
show
tido
an
essa
example to
trajetória
society.
tão carinhosa
So I'm
na
very
Abrelpe, e
proud
agora
for this
passar a
journey I had at
representar, esse
Abrelpe,
projeto
and
dentro
now
do
I'm
Pacto
representing
Global
this
da
project
ONU no Brasil.
in
Pode passar,
the
por favor.
UN Global
Não vou
Compact.
deixar de reforçar o problema. Eu acho que a gente tem, né, uma cartilha e tem que reforçar alguns dados.
I won't forget to
respeito do
reinforce
problema.
this problem.
Então, já reconhecemos, já sabemos que
I know we have a
80% do
book
que hoje
of problems,
está
but I
presente
have
nos
to
corpos
reinforce it.
hídricos, no
We
oceano,
recognize,
vem de
we
vias
are knowledge
terrestres.
about it, but and we
Sabemos que a
know
estimativa
that the
é que
water material
nesse
comes
momento
from
circulam 150
terrestrial,
milhões
from
de
the land
toneladas
sources.
de plástico no
About
oceano.
50 million
E
tons
isso
of
equivale,
plastic in
né,
the
na
ocean.
verdade, como chegamos
are
a
found.
150 milhões de toneladas? É que é
And
praticamente
how,
um caminhão por minuto.
I'm sorry, 150
descarregando
million
né, nos
It's
corpos
about
hídricos.
1 truck
E
per
isso,
minute that dispose
parado no oceano, flutuando no oceano, como
waste
se a gente
into the
interrompesse o
ocean.
caminho, se a
And
gente
this is
interromper de fato
all
o caminho do caminhão,
deposited there. So it's just
ainda
like
assim,
as we
esse
interrupt
resíduo
the
vai se
journey of the
fragmentar,
truck.
fragmentar,
And
e isso era
even though
probleminha, problemão.
it
E eu
happens,
peço pra
all this
passar
material going to be
pra próxima
fragmented,
foto,
and this
porque a
small
gente
problem
sai do
becomes a
campo da
huge problem.
iconografia e dos números e vai
And
pra
in this
realidade.
next picture,
essa é uma foto
we
real.
go from
Tirada, não é uma
iconography and
foto
go
de
to real
banco
results.
de
This is a
imagens.
real picture.
A gente
This
vê
is a real picture that we have
nitidamente
taken.
embalagem
It's not
de produto que nós
image
conhecemos,
bank.
consumimos em
And we
casa,
can
de
see the
limpeza
image of a
de
product
casa,
that we know, a
se
cleaning product
fragmentando,
that we
né, a
know,
olhos vistos,
and this
mais claro impossível. Ou seja, isso aqui é um
pack
retrato
is
do que
fragmenting.
acontece quando o resíduo colocado na água navega.
It's a portrait of what's going on. This is what happens when it goes to the water. It goes through all the way and it breaks up. It disintegrates. So whenever we talk about 1 truck per minute, it's not something imaginary. This is what this is about. This picture is also real, and it happens every day, everywhere. It's not just one specific situation. Unfortunately, in my dear city, Santos, the Environment Secretary of Santos is here with us, and we all know it's a sad reality that we have to resolve. It's not just to take pictures and be aware about, but we have to do something about it. Well, talking about this problem and about the Blue Keepers project, how do we recognize, how do we understand this problem, but what is the source of it? The sources are focused on 3 pillars. We have infrastructure problems on municipalities, from collection to recognition, technical recognition that this problem arises from the waste management system. So the municipal manager should understand, he has to understand about it, and when he's qualified and aware of the problem, he start making programs for the municipality. So we have to teach, we have to educate and qualify, because after that we leave them aware of how critical the problem is. So we cannot consider only the municipality, the city hall, we also have to consider the citizens. So this problem is also about, is just from one side, the municipality side, or is it just from the citizen side? It's from both. So we have to improve education, improve communication, improve the knowledge of the problem. And the fundamental starting point is the industry, the private sector, because they have to work on improvement for the solution. This may be a reverse logistics situation, maybe a reverse logistic on the packagings, on recycling, and of course, the regulatory framework, the incentive, the tax incentive framework, which sometimes do not consider recycling as a priority to encourage this type of behavior. Everything I said is not new. Everything I'm saying here has to be very well said and has to be added to the structure of what we discussed about the country. And mainly in Brazil, we have a national sea litter prevention program, and these objectives are really clear about the land sources. From the 5 goals, 4 of them are focused on the land sources. I have just focused here on what Blue Keepers is positioning about and what we are trying to solve. Talking about immediate actions, we have some actions on barriers, and what type of actions can we scale type and that work on one city that can work on another city. So this is also about fomentation, about avoiding the way of litter to the ocean, and implement ideas on communication to provide engagement. So this is all related to a national plan that validates this type of action. And of course, we cannot detach ourselves from the world. So we all know the UNEA resolution, which is recent, it's from the beginning of the month, about the end of plastic pollution. It's not just about sea litter, but it has a lot to do with sea litter because it's just escape. It's like an outlet valve, but it's also very difficult to be removed, to avoid. So this resolution hasn't done anything yet. It's just a resolution to start processes that will take about 2 years to create a contract. So a contract is a legal international instrument. Basically, it's an instrument. The countries are going to sign it, just like the Paris Agreement, and the resolution of this contract, and they agree themselves, and these countries agree to accomplish what's established in that contract. So all the regiments and the articles are very important about what the Global Compact comprises. And we also want to participate and to be the link between the industry, the country, and the cities, and how Blue Keepers can instrumentalize and help to take actions into real life. This is what we want. The real impact. We have a technical and scientific anchor, but we also have evidence. That's what waste-free water has brought and other projects have brought. So we are based on evidence. And then we really know what the problems are in that city. And I can't avoid saying that plastic straws are considered like global problems. But whenever we do these field searches, we see that plastic straws are very little. Of course, it's an evidence, but it's not the problem itself. It's an evidence that helps us to look on other evidence and take us to think of other solutions and improve communication. So after the plastic straw, what is the next item that we have to consider? We have to put together all the companies and local societies into these long-term actions. So we shouldn't impose, we should build it all together. And regulation and prevention should work side by side. We should work on communication, but prevention should be with us all the time. And this is going to help us with the regulation of UNEA. I can't avoid to connect with other issues. Blue Keeper contributes with at least 5 goals, 5 SDGs. Today, the most representative for us is number 17. So nobody's going to invent anything. So this is the occasion that we have to work on. Whenever we finish this event, we have to go and sign this paper, because Blue Keepers today is a catalyzer of all these movements that are going on. At this time. We have SDG 6, 14, which is very well known of the impact of life in water. And it also has to do with circular economy, circular materials, and finally, sanitation. Many people ask me about sanitation. Why is that? Because much of sea waste comes from the city. Because it's derived from a bad behavior from our own homes. And of course, it is totally linked to sanitation. So, yes, we have to have a dialogue, have a strict partnership with the sanitation companies and with everyone who's related to urban infrastructure. Is everyone on board? Well, our team, those who are working with us, I have to mention that Blue Keepers has started with the vanguard of Braskem, who's bringing this project. And then we have Ocean Pack, who has brought robustness to our project. So these partners are watching us, and so thank you very much for this partnership, because we know it's a joint construction. They are all partners, they are sponsors who work together, who think with us about solutions. And the Ocean Department at the University of São Paulo, which is led by Alessandro Turra, and they are working with us on the scientific, technical branch, and we have this strong confidence to help us to follow on the actions. I would like to thank Maite, who's the manager on the platform for water projects, where Blue Keepers has also been part of. So I invite you all to get to know better about this platform, and I'm the coordinator of this project. So in short, this is a summary of Blue Keepers' plan for 2022. So we're gonna have several similarities, like removal, places for disposal, actions that are taken globally. So part of our work is to have an observatory, just because that's what we have all over the world, like circular types of prevention, and we have to strengthen the capacities of municipalities, because if we didn't have this generosity from them, we would still have problems when we would be over. And then what is the legacy we have left? We have to think about it. And in short, this is a timeline. It's a very daring timeline, but we are confident if we consider all the partners that are here. That's why I'm looking at you, and we do want to reach it. And it has everything to do with the partnership with the municipalities, but it has a lot to do with the private partnerships too. We have to go to the field with the brands, with the industry, with the companies. We have to work side by side, because this is what has to be done with the private sector. And this is the national campaign to bring awareness about these partnerships. And I'd like to just to leave some message here, summary up about everything that has been done by PROMAR in the field, considering the waste, considering the municipality managers, considering society. We identify the material. That's the methodology we created on the waste-free project. So we have several millions of articles, since cleaning, since home cleaning, cosmetics cleaning, home decoration. We have several plastic items. And after considering these items, what are their origin? Which problem has brought them? So is it just from tourists on the beach, people on the beach, or maybe we have problems, home problems, we have an estuary problem, because people just put the litter on the water, take litter to the ocean because they don't have infrastructure. What is it really? So here we can see some packagings being fragmented, and we have some actions here showing that we are diagnosing, and waste is still there. Waste is still being fragmented there as the year passes by. So methodology today is from source to sea, but I propose the opposite, from sea to source. Let's go to the beach, let's see the waste we have there, and then we have to go to the industries and say, this is the problem. We have to prioritize these items because these are the most polluting items which are damaging our oceans. In Blue Keepers, we are looking for partners. We have Ocean Pack, we have Braskem, but we will have more. We have about 570 municipalities, and we have a huge water basin and complex water basin. So everyone should be involved. Everyone has the opportunity to participate. And these are the comments I have to say. I'm available for any clarifications. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thank you, Gabriela. I'm very excited to see how this program is being extended, and we hope it reaches the same coverage of the same marine coverage on Brazilian coast. I'm very, very excited to see it. This is a whole union of efforts. It's a union of several experts together in order to sort out a problem that is the size of our planet. As you have said, it has been the main topic of the General Assembly of the UN this year, where 75 countries have approved a resolution to start negotiations of one global treaty, of a global treaty to fight plastic pollution. But as you have also said, fight global plastic pollution has a lot of interaction, has a lot of influence on water issues, and also sea and river issues. So we have to be concerned about that too. So it's a time to reflect. It's a time to reflect about what we have seen so far. All this waste-free water project, which has started in the city of Santos, with the main idea of making this project in the city of Santos. But then we had a huge supporter in Santos who said, no, you won't focus on here in Santos. We're going to be example for Brazil and the world. Liporio, secretary here, is here with us today, and he has supported us on that. So thank you very much for embracing this project, for your initial support in Santos. And whenever we see this waste-free water project in 11 Brazilian cities, I think we have about 200 cities in Brazilian coast, right? We have the project in Ipojuca with the Mayor Célio, and they have also embraced us in the state of Pernambuco. I'm very happy to mention Rogério. We're going to have another city with the project Waste-Free Water, and I was with the mayor of another city in the countryside, and they said, no, we are going to bring to our city here in Paulista. So it's another city that we are incorporating. We're incorporating Paulista in our next step of the waste-free water project. And we can see PROMAR is taking it to countries in the Caribbean. Blue Keepers with Gabriela, they are saying that they want to incorporate 10 more cities. So now we have like 12 more cities, and then we have like 22 cities. We have to change it into 10 times more. I received a message from a friend of mine who's working on a similar project to PROMAR in Indonesia. He's saying that he has some cities in Indonesia. They are working with a likely project there. And I'd like to thank Greece. Thank you very much, Greece, because he's following us, he's watching us. So let's keep on interacting and expanding our views, just like we started from Santos to the world, just like the title of our first presentation. See our responsibility? So Tatiana is here with us too. It's incredible to have an opportunity like this project. It's incredible to see the number of partners throughout this journey, because all the contacts I had, all with the Blue Keepers project, was with Tatiana. And now Gabriela, who has previously worked in Abrelpe, is coordinating the project. So you see, it's a mass of people, a mass of qualified people to take this topic. And this is just a little that we can do to change reality. Right there at the back of our guests here, we have the municipality managers who are aligned with all the programs dedicated with the municipalities Thank you very much for your support. And now I have to thank again our partners. And Jan, you had a mission with us. You had a mission, and now you're taking our project to the Dominican Republic, taking all these actions from PROMAR. And we can see that all these projects are being expanded. We have open doors. So we are very happy now to go to another presentation from our mother organization, our large organization, and I'm very pleased to announce I'm very happy to be the president of ISWA, the International Association of of Solid Waste. So this is the only organization in the world working exclusively for the development of solid waste all over the globe. And we have around 79 countries, 79 member countries who are interacting. They have a huge interaction, and we have a very dedicated team. Now I'd like to give the word to Alan Encinas, who's the technical director of ISWA. And he's going to talk about a new component of this project, which is governance. So now the word is yours, Alan. Thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you so much. So please, tell us a little bit about this governance, and which is a new branch. It's a new branch that we have identified in this project, mainly on this last step in Ilha Grande Bay, which is about how to act in an integrated way and how we can expand our agenda.
Muito obrigado,
Thank you
Carlos.
very much, Alan.
Good day to everybody. I'm very proud and happy to be today here at this conference and to be able to share with you some of the insights that we got from the work on the project Wastewater Free related to governance arrangements. Let me just Is my presentation correctly displayed?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Well, many thanks for this opportunity. I would like to give you a short presentation on governance and marine litter prevention. This was a crucial part of the Waste-Free Water Project, and specifically we did this for the region of Bahia Ilha Grande. The content of this presentation is part of a governance proposal that we have created for this project, and it has been also based and built up upon the evidence that we collect for this. this graphic that comes from a practical framework, a very useful document that I personally find very useful. And it's by Bennett and Satterfield, and it describes a little bit the elements of governance and as well the objectives and attributes of governance. As you can see, a governance arrangement or a governance system has different pillars: institutions, structures, and processes. All of those three have to be present in order to establish the foundations for a governance system to function. Also, it has some specific objectives. It needs to be effective, equitable, responsive, and robust in order to contribute and to establish the clear pathways in order to solve an environmental problematics such as marine litter pollution. For waste specifically, in this case, it is linked to the reasons and conditions for fulfilling the public responsibility of providing a solid waste management system and avoiding plastic and, well, waste leakage into the environment that ultimately leads to marine litter pollution, as the brilliant presentations before me very detailed. They explain it very detailed. Governance also refers to the decision-making process and the process by which decisions are implemented or not implemented regarding to waste management. Where does the marine litter come from? Well, it has been said in the excellent previous presentations, marine litter is a problem that has many causes and owners. The leakage of waste into the environment is the result of a combination of wrong practices, lack of waste collection infrastructure, inadequate waste collection logistics, etc. It can have many causes. It also has different sources and compositions, and the composition of it is as varied as the products we consume. Although we know that plastics are particularly predominant in marine environments because of their chemical composition, this results in a complex problem where responsibility and accountability is not clear if the correct structures defining those are not in place. Here, I would like to show, well, the question is what words define the marine litter problem? And the graphic that you are seeing in this slide, it's coming from a consultation that we did in the region of Marine, Ilha Grande. And those are the words that came to the minds of the respondents of this consultation more frequently. So you can see the words in like bigger in size in the image. They are the most common ones. But as you can see, there are many different reasons or words that stakeholders use to define the problem itself. So this is just a remark that the problem is quite very complex and it can be looked at it from many different perspectives and fronts. Why do we need governance arrangement for preventing marine litter? As you could see in the last slides, the complex nature of the problem, such as marine litter and many other environmental issues as well, require a more inclusive and comprehensive approach than the traditional government-only interventions that you sometimes see with many other problems that society faces. More importantly, the virtues of governance described in the past slides, such as the robustness that it provides, equitability, responsiveness, and effectiveness, are key for enabling stakeholders to contribute on solving the issue in a participative manner and taking a clear role with ownership as well. Governance has been adopted by society to transition from the traditional government-centered way of dealing with environmental problems. So then, how a governance arrangement can be structured and enabled? Well, here I'm going to, of course, describe the approach that we took in the Waste-Free Water project, which is a very clear methodology for, first of all, identifying, of course, the key elements that are already present in that governance arrangement, because we all have governance arrangements for many things. Some of them are shaped differently, but here what we try to do is to first of all, identify the nature of the problem with technical visits, which in the previous presentation was very clearly explained. Then we had some key stakeholder consultations, and then we created diagnosis of solid waste management system, and then we concluded with a proposal for integrated actions. We came to the resolution in the end of not only proposing the structure of the governance system and the elements, but also some actions, practical actions that could be taken in order to drive forward the objective. I can see that it has many similarities, of course, with the approach of the previous projects, and of course, this is something very positive that we all speak the same language, of course. The diagnosis, the first stage of the diagnosis was like to identify the different set of criteria, like whose competence is this problematic? What is the status of the services? What is the status of the coverage, the final disposal, and separate collection? The diagnosis, the technical diagnosis was focused in these particular technical issues that need to be taken into consideration to really understand the technicalities and the pulse of the waste management system. After this diagnosis, of course, we came to the analysis of the challenges. The challenges, of course, were related and identified according to the observations that we did in the field, but also to the consultation of stakeholders from different sectors. We didn't only focus in the government, which was, of course, very collaborative with us and very willing to share information and to help us to understand better the situation. We also included, of course, stakeholders from civil society, such as NGOs and citizen organizations, and of course the academia as well. And with this diagnosis and assessment, we could identify the challenges, from which we proposed certain actions. The first action was, and this is specifically for the case of Ilha Grande Bay, but it can probably be applied to many other coastal areas. So the first step was the stakeholder mapping. So in other words, who has data and handles solid waste management services on a daily basis. Then we proposed to create an integrated online system and to use the input of the technical data that we collected from the 3 municipalities to allow strategic decision making. So the first step here of sharing information is just creating a solid scenario based on data and observable and measurable data in order to take better decisions. This is crucial. The second one is to promote dialogue and collective intelligence responding to the challenges in waste management with social participation and also communication and environmental education. In order to prevent this problem, it was very important to have a very solid communication campaign to address stakeholders and citizens in order to make them aware of the situation of the problematic, what can cause as well to public health and what can cause for them as well for the economic activity, because Ilha Grande Bay is an important tourist area, as you know. The third one was related to economies of scale in waste services. In this specific measure, we have proposed to develop a regional material recovery facility, and the word regional is very important here. In this case study, we have been advocating for regionalization to increase the collaboration between the isolated municipalities typically isolated municipalities in their functions, in order to change the paradigm and now transition to economies of scale in the form of improved collaboration and communication between them. Then a sound legal framework or enforcement as well. The legal framework, it is present. but the enforcement was a little bit complicated because the correct systems and processes were not in place there. So we were advocating and of course supporting the idea of establishing the necessary legal framework that in this particular case was already in place, but then we needed to include certain changes such as a large solid waste generators law to manage those and to make sure that they were not incurring into bad practices. Then, now here, I want to talk a little bit not on the practical actions here itself, but in the principles that can lead to a sustained success with these interventions, because one of the main challenges for effective governance arrangements to drive them forward sufficiently long-term for results is sometimes that environmental governance and specifically waste governance can vary when governments and stakeholders have different priorities, political alignments, interests, etc., commitments. So the required coordination between stakeholders can be actually quite difficult. Also, the influence of intergovernmental relations and moreover the relation between stakeholders plays a key role. Sometimes this happens everywhere, especially in the global south. Politics also sometimes play an even larger role than the discretionary power of authorities or the influence of key stakeholders. So for this reason, it is key to build around the governance arrangements and institutions something that can support the foundation and integrity of the arrangements for long term. This could be in many forms, such as independent intermunicipal organizations with technical capacities. Again, here, advocating for regionalization, of course, regional commissions that oversee the provision of the public service to a community or region. Here, bringing in civil society is also key and very helpful to improve intergovernmental and inter-stakeholders relations. This also improves policymaking and implementation. As well as important to make local governments central players and encourage them to scale up civil society-led environmental initiatives. This can be very beneficial because some of them, the responses and the answers are within society and within the communities that are already working really hard in organizing themselves and producing solutions. So all of these can have many adversities. Of course, as I mentioned, collaboration can be difficult when the interests are different. So here we are advocating for the 6 principles that international organizations have been promoting, of course, also to ensure that governance arrangement can be robust and resilient. And these are, well, as you can see in the slide, consensus, responsibility, transparency, equity and inclusion, effectiveness and efficiency, and participation. All of these are very, very important to keep in mind always when we are transitioning towards new and innovative governance arrangements, because those are the foundations that are going to allow for any scheme or of arrangement to be well sustained into the future. Well, finally, I would like to give my brief conclusions and also making a call for collaboration. Marine litter is a problem that affects many, and the majority of it starts from land, as already mentioned by the previous presentations. It affects public health, the quality of the environment and ecosystems, and also key economic activities such as tourism. It is also a problem of global scale that could affect generations to come. It is important to take action and try to find better solutions now. The international mandates for this decade has been very, very focused and also very appropriately mentioned by Carlos previously. Now countries are really taking ownership into this, and they are moving forward in the international environmental politics and policy arena in order to produce novel and groundbreaking agreements such as this international treaty. So it is more clear that we need to take action. Governance arrangements and the policies stemming from their oversight can be very useful and beneficial to effectively transition to solutions of any type of progress on a problematic such as marine litter. However, governance arrangements can only be achieved if actors collaborate and act in goodwill to discuss and share their knowledge. By taking this approach and goodwill of implementing those principles as a framework for creation and operation of governance arrangements and derived policies, the results and continuity of interventions are much better suited to be resilient, legitimate, and effective. I would like to finish with a call for actions for those stakeholders interested and willing to take the role of enablers to better solutions for waste management and marine litter. Local governments and officials can better serve as their citizens by providing a cleaner environment on land and sea. Civil society can drive forward their programs and interventions in combating marine litter for potential scaling up. Academics and academic institutions can establish their important role in society by giving the guidance and advice to use science and technology to improve the design of interventions. Waste management companies and operators can discover new business opportunities coming from all of this and can be hugely benefited from making better practices. And private companies and businesses can support the stimulation of economic activity and impulse their reputation and brand towards consumers. And that's it from my side. Many thanks. And I want to just say that an apology on behalf of Baine Vikvist from Alphalsbergen. He wanted to be here, but for some unfortunate parallel bookings, he couldn't be here. But he sends his regards to you. Many thanks.
Well, thank you very much, Alan. Thank you very much, and congratulations on your presentation. This governance topic are transversal to all the other themes, to all the other topics, and it's really important to consider as a pillar, as a vital pillar of this project that we are working on, this waste-free water project, as well as for any other project related to our sector, in order to guarantee a good governance, and this is fundamental. Well, now that we know about the story, we know about the program, maybe we can say that we have reached it to the part that everyone has been anxious about, everyone has been waiting for. And we are really proud, we are really pleased and happy to launch a new publication. This book summarizes this new step of the project, of the Waste-Free Water Project. This publication brings, in a very didactic way, in a very simple way, in a very practical way, it brings the good practices for prevention and combat to solid waste on water. This project has been a partnership between the Environmental Agency of Sweden. I would like to make it registered here our most honored and sincere thanks to our partner, because that's because of them that we could have the support, we had the environmental financial from them, and then we could accomplish all the steps of the Waste-Free Water Project. So thank you very much. Our special thanks to the management of the Environmental Agency in Sweden. And I would like to thank Åsa, who has been the leader on this topic at the Sweden agency. And unfortunately, due to parallel personal appointments, she couldn't be with us today. She should have been to give some words, but I would like to say that I'm really thankful for another accomplished step. And we have ISWA here, a Volkswagen, which is a member of ISWA in Sweden, an important partner in this new step, and the University of Leeds, represented by Professor Costas Vela, is here with us. So just to register the launch of this guideline, which is going to be available for everyone online, on the channels of Waste-Free Water, on Abrelpe and ISWA channels, I'd like to invite our secretary, Mr. Isborio, to receive the first publication, the first book that is being launched here. I'd like to register our thankful notice. So thank you, Lisborio. Thank you, the mayor, for all the support you provided us, and I hope we can continue on this journey. Oh, Carlos, congratulations. I'm very pleased. I'm very happy to receive this first book. And this, of course, we are aware that this work has taken a much higher proportion than we thought about. Of course, we have several desires. We have desires from the government authorities, from the companies, from the partners, but mainly from those who are working on this disciplinary, and also Abrelpe, ISWA, you are all playing this role, and all this technical team. We know that you all know that these advances are taken because of your dedication. And everyone who are close to us, we all want to make it right. I just want to congratulate you for conducting this work, to be this aggregate, this catalyzing agent within this project, so that we could have a much wider extension with this project. It has started in a very simple size, a very small size in Santos, and now it's being spread by Gabriela, by all the team in Abrelpe to other cities. So congratulations, all of you. So now, with the launch of this publication, I'd like to close the seminar at CIRSOL in Recife, in the state of Pernambuco, and I hope we can get together very soon by monitoring, developing, and contributing. I would like to say what Alan has said. I'd like to continue contributing and engaging on this project. Thank you very much for everyone who has been here with us this morning, for everyone who has been with us soon.